Welcome to another episode of Let's Play for Free, everybody, as I will be reviewing Path of Exile. Path of Exile is your Diablo 1 and Diablo 2 build. It picks up where the old Blizzard North team left off, although not quite literally, as it is of course a completely different story and separate experience of its own. Path of Exile is one of those titles I feel safe calling a Diablo clone, and that is probably because the developers themselves at Grinding Gear Games stated that that is exactly what they set out to make, a Diablo clone reminiscent of the old days for fans of the franchise. Fans that later got pissed on by today's Blizzard Diablo 3 of a joke that keeps to nothing of the original series besides Deckard Cain and a Diablo that turned female for some strange reason, going from this to this. Okay, they make some damn good art at Blizzard, but that's about all they can do nowadays. What was I talking about again? Oh yeah, Path of Exile. You start off with selecting from one of the main character selections with a base character class origin, each with a small backstory as to why they have been turned outcasts and thus sent to the island of Rayclast. You feel so unwanted, they don't even bother taking you to the island. They probably bunk you over the head with an oar and throw you overboard as you rinse up to shore and start your journey. As far as story goes, that is it. At least, I think that is it. I'm sure there was much going on and I remember enjoying parts of the story, but you know, the game gives you a feeling that there are smaller and open storylines going on the island, rather than one main goal. And at some point you're up against some large bosses, but if you didn't pay too much attention, you probably wouldn't even know why. Meaning that they don't do a great job of reminding you why you're there and what you're really trying to do most of the time. In my opinion, if they wanted to go that extra mile and be a true Diablo clone, they should have made some crazy ass evil boss hyped up and sneak peeked during the story to have you looking forward to a main plot structure for which they could build up to. This element was defining in Diablo. The whole story builds up to Diablo. The name of the game itself is Diablo. They pre-hyped the last battle so much in those titles, you couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and accomplishment when you faced him at last and thus completed the game. This was about the only thing I missed from the old Diablo titles in this game. But that is all I missed. In every other area, Grinding Gear Games delivered. You'll notice I'm making a lot of comparisons to the original Diablos, but that is mostly to be fair to Path of Exile, since this game was indeed aimed at that market, and at Diablo fans themselves, made from, unless I am mistaken, Diablo fans as well. From the moment you wake up on the beach, the game simply picks up from there to become a grinding, hack and slash, enemy-infested dungeon crawler orgy with the sole purpose to hack and slash and keep crawling through open world and claustrophobic dungeons grinding for gear. Before anyone hates on this, I will have you know that this is not a bad thing when done right. This is what the original Diablo was about to begin with. Grinding. If delivered correctly, it becomes a fun adventure to blow off steam and rank up the enemy death tally so high that both Schwarzenegger's Commando and Rambo should be jealous of your hero. The setting is, for the likes of this game, perfect. Dark, sadistic, bloody and gothic. It looks infested at times, vile, spooky or simply mystically evil. The music itself that accompanies the game and the sound effects create for a menacing world that should have Diablo fans hooked for hours on end. What occurred to me is that although by comparison to Diablo it lacked in that big boss endeavor that drove you forward, it actually felt like I was playing Diablo 2. It truly did. The look, the music, sound effects, the fast-paced combat was simply immaculate in bringing over and creating the same feel with our current technology. I even got goosebumps at some points from the lagginess. Lastly, in not being an exact Diablo clone and with the freedom of being able to implement current ideas into the game, this independent title goes a long way to introduce some more advanced and complex game mechanics. For starters, there is no gold. Everything in Rayclast is based on a bartering system, which I admit is probably one of the hardest things to get used to, but so much fun in the end. The second is the open skill structure that allows any base class to evolve in any way you want. This here is the universal skill tree used by the game. Each character starts on a different end, so they do have a base from which they start off, and access to different initial passive skills. Moving on from there, each character can advance in whichever direction they want, in a very open and sophisticated design. Of course, the base character chosen defines a range of choices, which is actually a good thing, otherwise it wouldn't make a single difference which character you chose, and from there on, it's all up to you and how you want to build your character. The passive skill counts are endless. Well, not endless, but there are a lot, whilst they also include many stat modifiers all over the place that join one section of the passives to another section depending on what direction you are headed to. This helps evolve the character into the skill sets and items that the passive tree is built for. Lastly, active skills are very different in this game too. You have access to basically all the skills of the entire game. Each skill can have restrictions as to what weapon it needs for it to be used, and each skill type, dexterity, magic or strength based, is color-coded and handed to you from drops, quests or trades as a socket gem. Every item in the game can have a different range of sockets on it, with different color combinations and different socket connectors that actually allow for passive skill modifiers to be added to each skill already added via the same way, that is, placing the skills within a socket in an item. Furthermore, you can modify socket amounts, colors, and connections between them with the basic bartering items that are jewels, orbs, or whatnot, as each and every one of them can be used as a means of trading but also has a property of its own, usually for editing your collected items. Active skills from their own level up the more you use them, and in doing so, their requirement stats increase, meaning your passive skill tree build can make the use of some skills possible and some not. All in all, it gives for a far richer and deeper system, from the open passive skill tree to the bartering system to the endless active skill combinations, which strangely enough also for some reason complement the world and style of the game. Path of Exile works well with itself, and it knows what it is and what it should be doing. The visuals have been improved several times and are wonderful and smooth. Animations have gone through rough patches from time to time, however it is expected from an independent game, which has shaped up to be quite bug-free and smooth. From my experience at least, Path of Exile was simply a pleasure and so much fun. It also includes constant tournaments and challenges with ladders and gifts to points accumulated in those, and has implemented an online underlay to the entire game that makes it even more fun, yet never taking away from its initial style and purpose. Everything feels so polished and simply seems to be working great with itself. As usual, as is a custom on my channel, I'll be giving Path of Exile 2 scores. For fans of the genre and even more fans of the original Diablo genre, this is a 9 out of 10, maybe even a 10 out of 10. It's a true gem of a dark gothic hack and slash RPG that no fan of the genre should ever think about missing out on. For the rest of you out there, I'd say Path of Exile is a great time and I'd give it a 7 out of 10, and in some cases perhaps even push it up to a barely 8 out of 10. Worth checking out, but nothing too special. Some elements might have you coming back for more, whilst for some of you out there it might actually get you hooked. Definitely worth trying out. Me personally, well, as an old-time Diablo fan, obviously I love this game. It feels like a reoccurring Christmas present every time I log into it. Well done, Grinding Gear Games. You proved that all the excuses Blizzard made on behalf of Diablo 3 to have been nothing but a pile of shit. And all this, you did it for free.